One hit, one moment, then gone. These 10 songs topped the charts, burned into a generation, and then vanished like they never existed. Here's what happened to them. Number 10, Narvel Felt's Reconsider Me. Imagine a Tuesday afternoon in 1973, somewhere outside Nashville. A session musician who'd been playing other people's songs for years finally walks into a studio with one of his own. No label buzz, no radio connections, just a story about a woman leaving, told so plainly it felt like he'd read your diary. Most people under 50 have never heard the name Narvel Felt's. But in 1975, Reconsider Me cracked the top 5 on the Billboard country charts and gave country radio one of the most quietly devastating vocal performances of the decade. Reconsider me. Felt's had been recording since the late 50s. Rockabilly, pop country, everything in between. He never stopped working. But that one song, that one chart moment, is the peak the industry ever acknowledged publicly. Reconsider me. The rest of his catalogue sits in the dark like a room nobody opens anymore. Go find Reconsider Me. You'll wonder how you missed it. Number 9, C.W. McCall, Wolf Creek Pass.
Me and Earl was hauling chickens on the flatbed out.
There's a version of country music history that gets told in textbooks and streaming algorithms. The outlaw era, the countrypolitan era, the 90s hat acts. But running underneath all of it, like a current nobody charted, were the truckers. Not the novelty ones.
With 1,000 cubes in a 1948 Peterbilt streamed alive.
The real ones. Wolf Creek Pass, 1975, was a top 10 country hit that almost nobody remembers today, overshadowed entirely by Convoy the following year. But Wolf Creek Pass was the blueprint. A story in 3 acts.
Trucking, and them hens commenced to clucking, and then Earl took out a match and scratched his pants.
A CB radio drawl, a runaway truck on a Colorado mountain pass, and a punchline so perfectly delivered it sounds like something your uncle would tell at Thanksgiving. McCall, whose real name was Bill Fries, a Nebraska advertising executive, essentially invented a character.
Cluckers, you want to hit second gear, please?
Recorded 2 hits with that character, and then walked away from music almost entirely. He went back to advertising, back to small-town life. He did it completely on his own terms, and country music never really figured out what to do with that.
Your wine accessory shift knob come right off in his hand. As you want to screw that thing back on, Earl?
Number 8, Jeannie C. Riley, Harper Valley PTA. Some one-hit wonders happen by accident, and some happen because the universe lines up in a way that can only happen once. Jeannie C. Riley walked into a studio in 1968
It's reported you've been drinking and running round with men and going.
As an unknown secretary. She walked out with a song about a widow who publicly humiliates a school board for judging her lifestyle while quietly living worse ones themselves. Harper Valley PTA hit number 1 on both the country and pop charts simultaneously in the same week, making Riley the first woman in history to top both charts with the same single at the same time. Here's what most people don't know. Riley didn't write it. Tom T. Hall did, in about an hour. He'd heard a story from his wife about a PTA meeting in a small Kentucky town, sat down, and wrote it straight. He sold it. Riley recorded it. It sold 6 million copies globally. And then, for Riley at least, The follow-up hits never materialized at the same level. She became a deeply religious woman. Stepped away from the secular music world and never tried to chase that moment again. The song outlived the career. But that one moment? Genuinely historic.
And Mrs. Taylor sure seems to use a lot.
Number 7. Mickey Gilley, Room Full of Roses. Not every forgotten country song comes from the charts. Some of them live in the kind of cult reputation that passes from collector to collector in the dark corners of record stores and late-night YouTube rabbit holes. Mickey Gilley had a legitimate career, big enough, actually, that calling him a one-hit wonder is slightly unfair. But Room Full of Roses in 1974 was the moment everything changed for him. Before that record, Gilley had been grinding the Texas honky-tonk circuit for over a decade, recording for tiny labels, barely breaking through regionally. Then that song, a #1 country hit, launched a run that eventually included the famous Gilley's nightclub, which became the setting for Urban Cowboy. But here's the twist. Gilley was Jerry Lee Lewis's first cousin. Same bloodline, same raw piano energy, same Faraday, Louisiana roots. Two men from the same gene pool, both chasing music. One became a rock and roll legend. One became a Texas institution. And the moment that separated Gilley's story from a footnote was a song about roses he didn't even write. Number 6. Nitty Gritty Dirt Band. Number 5. Tompall Glaser, Put Another Log on the Fire, 1971. A country music landscape still dominated by the Nashville sound. Strings, smooth production, polish. And then somebody handed a radio DJ a record that sounded like it was recorded in a barn. by a man who had absolutely nothing left to lose. Put Another Log on the Fire, released in the mid-70s during the outlaw movement, became one of the most gloriously, deliberately provocative country comedy songs ever recorded. A man itemizing everything he expects from his wife, while offering nothing in return, delivered completely straight, with zero self-awareness from the narrator. Audiences weren't sure if they were supposed to laugh or cringe. They did both. Glaser was part of the outlaw movement's inner circle. Waylon, Willie, Kris Kristofferson all moved through his world. He ran Glaser Sound Studios, one of the most important independent recording operations in Nashville history. But somehow, the mainstream always kept him at arm's length. That song exists in this strange zone between satire and sincerity that country music almost never visits. And it's still funnier and sharper than most people realize. Number 4, Freddy Fender, Before the Next Teardrop Falls. Some voices are so distinctive that hearing them once is enough to anchor a memory for 30 years. Freddy Fender had a voice like that, weathered, cracked in exactly the right places. Capable of making a single held note feel like a lifetime of regret. Before the Next Teardrop Falls hit number 1 on both the country and pop charts in 1975, making Fender a Texas-Mexican artist who had spent years in and out of prison, years doing session work, years recording without recognition, an overnight success at the age of 38. But here's what the overnight story leaves out. Fender had recorded a rock and roll record back in 1959. He got arrested shortly after for marijuana possession in Louisiana and served time at Angola State Penitentiary. One of the most brutal prison systems in American history. By the time his career finally broke through, he'd already lived 3 lives. Before the Next Teardrop Falls wasn't a debut. It was a survivor's exhale. Number 3, Bobbie Gentry, Ode to Billy Joe.
It was the 3rd of June, another sleepy, dusty day.
In 1967, a song arrived on country radio and broke every rule the format thought it had. Bobbie Gentry wrote it, arranged it, and performed it herself. Something female artists almost never controlled end-to-end in Nashville at that time. The song spent 4 weeks at number 1 on the pop charts and crossed over to country in a way that confused categorizers for decades afterward.
Said it was a shame about Billy Joe anyhow.
It's the story of a family eating dinner and casually mentioning that Billy Joe McAllister jumped off the Tallahassee Bridge. That's it. Nobody in the song seems particularly moved. The narrator watches her father eat a 3rd helping of biscuits while this information hangs in the air. And then, famously, Gentry never tells you what Billy Joe threw off the bridge before he jumped.
When he and Tom and Billy Joe.
She never told interviewers. She almost never performed it after a certain point. She essentially retired from public life in the 1980s, wealthy, private, entirely on her own terms.
I'll have another piece of apple pie. You know what?
And the mystery just sat there, aging into something more powerful than any answer ever could have been. The song didn't need resolution. It needed the silence.
Jumped off the Tallahatchie Bridge.
Number 2, Bobbie Gentry, Fancy.
We lived in a one-room run-down shack on the outskirts of New Orleans.
There's a category of country song that only works because of the specific moment it was born into. Pull it out of that moment and it loses something. Leave it there, in its exact year, its exact context, and it becomes a time capsule that cuts right through you. Fancy was released by Bobbie Gentry in 1969. Yes, the same Bobbie Gentry. But it's Reba McEntire's 1990 cover that most people know.
Up to my hips. It was red velvet trim
And the original deserves its own conversation, because what Gentry was doing was genuinely radical. A song narrated by a woman whose mother dresses her up and sends her out to survive by any means necessary.
Here's your one chance, fancy, don't let me down.
Explicit in its implication, unapologetic in its resolution, the narrator ends rich, powerful, and completely unbothered by the judgment of anyone who didn't live her life. It charted.
Here's your one chance, fancy, don't let me down.
It was controversial, and then it disappeared for 2 decades until Reba brought it back and handed it to an entirely new generation. 2 careers, 1 song, different eras, same emotional punch. That's not a one-hit wonder story. That's a song that refused to stay buried.
Been talking about. I did what I had to do, but I made myself.
Number 1. Kris Kristofferson, Sunday Morning Comin' Down.
Way to hold my head didn't hurt.
Everything on this list has been about songs that got one moment in the light. Artists who flared once and then dimmed. But the number 1 spot belongs to a song that was misunderstood on release.
Down the stairs to meet the day.
Overlooked in its time, and has only grown into its full meaning in the decades since. In 1971, Sunday Morning Comin' Down won the Country Music Association's Song of the Year. That's not a forgotten moment. But Kristofferson himself, the man who wrote it, was a janitor at Columbia Recording Studios in Nashville when he did. A Rhodes Scholar, a former Army helicopter pilot.
Small kid cussing at a can that he was kicking.
A janitor, handing songs through windows to people who kept throwing them back, until they didn't. The song is about loneliness so specific it becomes universal.
'Cause there's something in
A man walking through a city on a Sunday morning, hungover, watching families through windows, smelling somebody else's chicken frying, hearing a child laugh. Not his child, not his window.
half as lonesome as the sound.
Not his life. The song doesn't ask for sympathy. It doesn't explain how he got there. It just puts you in that exact moment and holds you there.
In the park I saw a daddy.
That's the story that runs underneath every entry on this list. Talent doesn't guarantee recognition. Timing doesn't guarantee longevity. But some songs, the right ones,
And there's nothing short of dying.
the ones built from something real, they outlast everything. The careers, the charts, the whole industry that forgot them. They just wait. And eventually, somebody comes along and remembers.